Hello everyone, Emmanuel with Cabal Construction. I wanted to create a video regarding the upgrading of panels to your home when you're doing an ADU, specifically for those of you requesting 400 amps. I won't go too much into detail why you would want to upgrade from a 200 amp panel or even a 100 amp panel over to all the way up to a 400 amp panel. The simple answer is that you're trying to put more than two um, units on your property, whether it be an R1 or an R2 residential. And the main reason is because you're more than likely looking to either convert the garage and then put another ADU on top, or maybe you have the garage already converted and then you want to add an ADU in the back that's a standalone. Or maybe you have just one ADU already and you're trying to add a third ADU or even a fourth. I know that there are some properties where homeowners have figured out how to put four, and maybe they didn't go through all the proper permitting, but they get that done. In any event, that's going to be the main reason why you need to go above 200 amps. More than likely, your city code is going to require that each of your units have a minimum of, I believe right now it's 60 amps per unit. But in most often cases, you need at least 100 amps to be able to run your unit properly without having any sort of tripping going on when all the units are doing what they're doing in their everyday living. So I had a recent visit with a client who told me, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and upgrade my panel from a 200 amp to a 400 amp panel. He had four different contractors come out, give him a bid to upgrade the panel. What he didn't realize, and I know that we only had to do this one out of 20 different projects that we had, was that in order to upgrade your panel from a 200 amp panel to a 400 amp panel, the wires that are running from the SDG&E or the local power plants supply is more than likely going to be too thin to run to jump from 200 amps to 400 amps. I know that in San Diego it's common. If it's a wire that's underground or if it's overhead, overhead is actually a little easier to work with. But if it's underground, you have to basically do a whole new trench. A lot of times, it may even require a right-of-way permit because you may have to get into the public street a little bit. The last one we had to do it actually was within the sidewalk, and because we had to core through the side, do a lateral core, we didn't actually need a right-of-way permit. But just be aware that the moment you go from 200 amps to 400 amps, the wire that's supplying your 200 amp panel is more than likely going to have to get upgraded. Okay, don't assume that it's going to be a simple disconnect reconnect. A simple disconnect reconnect is when the electric company comes out, they disconnect your panel, you take off the old panel and you put a new one, and then they connect back to it and you're done. That is not the case when you're going to bump up from a 200 to a 400. What's going to happen at that time is they're going to, yes, take off the panel, but before they do any of that, they're going to ask you to upgrade the wire that's going from the street or from the sidewalk where they have their electrical, or from the overhead where the wire is coming down into your weatherhead. That entire wire needs to be upgraded to a thicker wire, a better gauge wire that's going to not get hot on the 400 amp panel. Okay, so what are some workarounds you can do if you're trying to add more amperage, another sub panel, but you want to stay within that 200 amp panel? You won't hear a lot of people say this these days, but what you can do is utilize gas if you have it in your home already. You'll have to obviously check with your local energy city company on whether this is doable or not, and then you'll have to check with your architect on all the energy codes and all the compliance stuff that's coming out lately as we're trying to get away from gas. But if it's still feasible, or if you're just going to do it, which we don't do here, but I know that a lot of people do, utilize gas. Okay, so you run gas to the existing units or the new units, and you utilize it for the water heater, for the washer and dryer, for the range. And now you don't need as much amperage to go to that new unit. Okay, so now you can use a 60 amp panel Maybe you can reduce the existing panel that's in your ADU from 100 to 60, if that's possible, by again utilizing more gas. And then you keep your panel at 100 to 125, right? So that is still within kind of pushing on that 200 amps, but you should be okay to run that. And I say all this because even though it's not friendly to do gas right now with the new laws that are coming out, or if you have solar, you obviously want to utilize electric as much as you can. Just keep in mind that that upgrade, that wire upgrade that I'm telling you about, to take it from 200 amps to 400 amps, is more than likely going to be a $25,000 bill minimum when it's all said and done, because you have to trench 4 feet down. You have to create a manhole that's a 4x5 hole, and then you have to core into the box. There are about 4 different inspections that need to happen between the city and the city inspector, and it is quite a bit of weight. So I just wanted to give you this heads up. The title of this video is going to be "What to Know When Going from 200 Amps to 400 Amps for Your ADU." Okay. If you have any questions, please reach out to us. We are Cabal Construction. We are in San Diego, located in La Mesa. We're always happy to help. My name is Emmanuel with Cabal Construction. We are built on trust.